The title of the book to the murderer's tale. It should come as no surprise that he is engrossed in a book during his incarceration. From the start of You until the finish, literature was a vital part of Joe's life, and he would surely rely on books to help him cope with this new phase. Although it was hoped that Joe would discover a book in You that would help him come to terms with his crimes, the book he is shown reading at the end of the last episode probably won't do the trick. Joe Goldberg is ultimately taken into custody for the several killings he committed during the Netflix series near the conclusion of You Season 5. According to Bronte's narration, Joe was made to face his actions in court, where his good intents were exposed as nothing more than a monster. Ultimately, Joe was given many life sentences, and Bronte declared that he would never be free again. The final episode of You then cut to a scenario in which Joe was in his prison cell reading a book. He puts this book down after finishing the last page, and we begin Joe's unsettling inner monologue for the final time. Joe is reading The Executioner's Song by Norman Mailer at the end of You Season 5. In the last episode of You Season 5, Joe finished reading Norman Mailer's The Executioner's Song. The life, crimes, and demise of notorious murderer Gary Gilmore were covered in this 1979 true crime book. This real-life murderer only killed 2 people before being imprisoned, so he wasn't quite as good as Joe Goldberg. But after the capital sentence was reinstated in 1976, Gilmore gained notoriety as the first person killed in the United States. Gilmore had also demanded execution in addition to this. More than 10 years had passed since an execution in the United States prior to Gilmore's death by firing squad. Gilmore was given the opportunity to appeal after the courts postponed his execution after he was given the death penalty. But instead, he advocated for the penalty. The Executioner's Song describes Gilmore's turbulent childhood, his first offenses and incarcerations, and the murderer's choice to voluntarily die by firing squad rather than challenge his sentence. The Executioner's Song explains a lot, but Joe's decision at the end of You Season 5 is intriguing. Does Joe's book in You Season 5 hint that he will be executed? Joe's recital of the Executioner's Song at the conclusion of You Season 5 first seemed to be a clue that he would meet Gilmore's death. We usually learn about everything that goes on in Joe's thoughts in this Netflix series. But after Joe finished and put down the Executioner's Song, he was unusually silent. What he thought of this book's conclusion is unknown to us. Joe probably didn't read this book to understand execution, though. In New York State, the death sentence is illegal, and Bronte explicitly said that Joe would be imprisoned for the rest of his life. Nevertheless, while Joe reads the Executioner's Song behind bars, he probably has death on his mind. He continued talking about how awful it is to be imprisoned, and how his offenses weren't truly his fault once his inner thoughts were finally heard again. This, together with Joe's literary selection, tells us a lot about this You character's thoughts on his sentence. Why Joe is reading this particular book while in prison. Joe started to reflect that his discovery as a murderer was not his fault after finishing the Executioner's Song. It's to note that his inner monologue completely embraces who he is for the first time in Season 5. Joe always viewed himself as an advocate for women, only taking necessary action to keep them safe. It appears that Joe realized after court that he killed all those people because he is a true monster, not because he was good. But instead of expressing regret, Joe criticized society and bemoaned the fact that his prison sentence was much harsher than he had anticipated. The Executioner's Song is an appropriate novel for Joe's character because he would have rather that Bronte kill him in the woods than put him in jail. Death is an escape, according to this idea. Because it allowed him to control or avoid his punishment, Gilmore pushed for execution. Joe's punishment, which is why it is ideal. Justice would only have been hampered by execution.